Well, red, white, doesn't matter, does it, eh? Still does the same thing.
It does. I
Okay,
I
cool.
feel like it used to be red.
Yeah, I don't think it ever was, though. I think,
No? Is that a
yeah,
bit of the Mandela effect?
yeah,
We remember a universe where the button was red.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I
Don't
think
press the red button.
the end button, the exit button, is definitely red. But yeah, okay, right. Okay. Well, shall I just sort of plough onto this, Dawn, because we might lose you at any moment, and you're on holiday, so you just put your feet up and just. It's great. I really appreciate you setting this up for us, especially while you're on vacation. That's great. So thank you, Dawn. Brilliant. So we're recording. Great. So lovely to see you all. Nice to see so many of you. And we're in our sort of quarterly chit chat Q&A session. So we're really kind of focusing these sessions. I think are more about our well-being businesses. What how do we build them? How do we get out there and really make contact with people that need our help or want to come to us, but actually don't even know where we are. That's part of the problem. It's terrific. I think just looking at Facebook and looking at the way things are going generally, there's so much interest in what we do in the house healing modality. People do say, yeah, well, what is it? And when they realize that it's actually something that they're already vaguely familiar with, but what we can do is really, what's that expression? Drill down, isn't it? That's a terrible expression, but we really kind of take it apart and put a real formalized structure in place for people. They're really, really interested. So I think we should never feel kind of reluctant about talking about what we do. But it's a spiritual thing, isn't it? So it's a personal thing as well. So that has its own energy to it. But so what we're going to do, I'm just going to, there's a couple of sort of admin things, bit of housekeeping that I want to run past you all and for anybody that picks up the playback. But then we'll obviously introduce Adrian, and he's volunteered to share his experience with us of how he went about building his well-being practice. I will inevitably chip in, and what we really want is for you to be asking questions and for you to be sharing your own successes as well, and your own processes and the things that you have found that are working for you. So it's not just Adrian or myself sitting here and pontificating on the process. Let's see how people are generally getting on. So first of all, a bit of housekeeping. The first thing I want to mention is a little reminder. Melanie's not with us at the moment. I don't. Oh, hang on. I've got to admit somebody. There we go. I knew I couldn't do two things at once. So Melanie is just about to come into the room. There you go. Nothing like a bit of telepathy. So there she is. Good. So tomorrow at 3 o'clock we have the video. What I'm calling the video training. So that'll be me really sharing my experience as a video producer or somebody that makes video programs. So sharing with you guys about how the simple basics of how to enable yourselves to really, if you want to use YouTube, how to use YouTube, how to make it work for you and not be too terrified of it. That's the purpose of tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So I sent round an email with the link in for that. So if any of you haven't got that and you want to attend tomorrow, do let me know. Ideally, send me an email, ask for the link. Sorry, just letting somebody else in. So that'll be good. So that's 3 o'clock tomorrow, 3 o'clock in GMT, UK time. Now, Melanie has very kindly, there you are, fantastic, excellent, Centre of the Universe. Melanie has very kindly taken on the role of trying to help me get a bit more organised. And so if you can keep your eyes out for emails from Melanie, which will be, I never know how to pronounce is it Caliach Cottage?
Caliach Cottage, yes, that'll be
Yes,
fine.
fantastic. So they'll be coming from Caliach Cottage. If we basically want to be asking you to do something or look out for something or, take part in stuff. One of the things that I do want to do is to ask Melanie to start to liaise a bit more with those of you that have already got YouTube channels, that have already got content on YouTube, because we want to go back to uploading, sharing, promoting your material, promoting your channels through our network channel. And what that means is that we need to be basically having maybe one video from each of you a month that will go to Melanie, and then Melanie will learn how to upload that. And if she decides she can pursue that process, because it is a little bit lengthy and we'll have to look at how that works for us, but we'll basically be getting, what I want to do is get a video up there a week, which is what we used to have about a year ago when Anna used to do that for us. And it's very, very helpful. So we've got, it's only 150 odd subscribers, but I reckon that if we can get back to uploading videos on a regular basis, we can really get some viewers taking up that, and it'll become more of a portal for your services. And that's the point. That's what the network is about, is promoting you all. So you'll probably get an email. Those of you who've got channels will get an email from Melanie asking about that kind of situation and asking for you to provide a video. But we'll go into that next. Affiliates, you may also get an email from Melanie, but that'll be in a few weeks' time. So just keep your eyes open for that. I'm not going to say any more about that. Just is what it is. Just keep your eyes open for emails from Melanie. And referrals. So work referrals from Adrian or I. Again, this really applies to the affiliates more than anybody else, but it's been very quiet. And I think that's really because I certainly have been focusing my energy on other stuff. The new coursework, which I think I mentioned last time, a few of you are members of that. That's been very popular. So I've got 2 groups running there. That's taken a lot of time to get up and running, which is great. Fantastic. But it really is a case of where your energy goes, that's where stuff flows. So I haven't had any overflow work to give for a couple of months now. Adrian, you passed a lead across to Nick, I think, didn't you, last week?
Yep.
It was great. But again, it's been quite quiet for you too on that front.
Yeah, it has.
We can talk about that in a minute. So that's just to keep everybody up to speed. I did mention last month, where's Tabitha? Maybe Tabitha's not on the vision, but I did mention that I was on the lookout for people that would be willing to do some training. So house healer training. In other words, take the courses. Because what I'm expecting is that some of the publicity that will be coming out fairly soon should get quite a lot of interest, and it would be nice to be able to get training courses running for those people that express an interest in what we're doing. So I had a couple of people respond. Tabitha was one, and Melanie I want to put forward as being another one. So I think at the moment, I think that's fine. I think if I will liaise with those 2 members, and we'll have a conversation about structure of how we do that fairly soon. And I'm hopeful that we will get students on those courses. Dawn obviously also runs courses at the moment, because some of you have gone through her wonderful courses, which is brilliant, and I expect her to still be there and doing that as well. So that'll be excellent. Yeah, terrific. Okay, sorry, I'm wandering on a bit here. Just before we go to Adrian, next month's meeting is, we've got a lovely speaker coming to talk to us, a lady called Anne Perry. Some of you might have seen the post on the Facebook group. I met Anne when I was invited to be interviewed on her channel. She's lovely, and she is going to talk to us about numerology, subject that I think a lot of you will find very interesting indeed. I do not know much about numerology, but Having met Anne, it seems to be she's quite excited by it. She gets very enthusiastic by what she knows and her knowledge, and she shares it willingly. So she's going to be a great speaker, I think. So that should be fun. So that's for next month. Right. So that's all of that stuff. Let's. Where's he gone? There you are. I couldn't see you, Adrian, amongst all of the.
I'm still here.
So I don't think I really need to introduce Adrian. I think you all know who he is. So we will simply open up this conversation, really, and we'll intro it by. I'm going to literally pass it over to Adrian in a sec, but I think really we're having this conversation because Adrian and I were having a conversation a little while ago about, what's the hardest thing for people you lot that want to build your businesses. And fundamentally, of course, the answer is, well, where do the clients come from? Where do I get my money from? How do I build this? What's my first step? And of course, the answer is, well, it's to find those people that are interested in what you're doing. So, Adrian, over to you, sir.
Okay,
thank you. Want to share some of your experience?
Yeah, thank you, Tim, and good afternoon or good morning to all of you there. I mean, the first thing I must say, it's not an easy process, but it's getting better by the month, the year, as people become more aware of what we can do, not just visiting people's houses, but also from a distance. And I think that's still one of the biggest questions to answer that most people have. Do you come and visit our house? Well, yeah, it'd be quite nice to go to the States every now and then and go and see them. But of course, A, there's a cost involved, and B, a time scale as well. So really, it's always interesting for me to be able to look back at how I started off. And I guess many of you, probably via Tim, have read my book, so you know pretty well what I've been up to. But, my background was a state agency, and some would say, well, it's quite an easy step going from one to the other. But because a state agency was so commercial, and to a certain point still is, it was actually trying to ditch one to actually move into a very, very different world. So how did I start off? Well, I've always been a sensitive kid, I suppose, and certainly going into people's houses, you would get the impression of, either a lovely, gentle, calm house. Oh, okay. Somebody's chatting away there. I'll keep going, but a nice, gentle, calm house, very much of a family house that you felt relaxed when you went in. You put it on the market, got a couple of viewings, and it sold. And then, of course, you had the others you'd walk into and just got a shiver, or suddenly find out that something wasn't right there. And, people would go and view it. They would come back and say, look, the house isn't right. It doesn't feel right. It ticks every box that we've got, but it just doesn't feel right. And, after a while, you'd go back, you'd remeasure, you'd take new photographs and, just re-advertise it, and it just wouldn't sell. And then often we'd lose them to another agent, and you suddenly see the price, being reduced again and again, until it looked such good value that people would then move in. But, it then led for me, once I'd got out of the business, to really look back over all the records that we had over 25 years of running the 6 offices. And there were so many houses there that would come on the market over a set period of time. One in particular, which you've probably heard me talk about, the divorce house just outside Godalming, that came on the market almost every 3 years to the day. Eventually, I got myself invited round there to talk to them and tell them what I was then doing from a house healing point of view. And I've worked on the house, and to my knowledge, I've never seen it on the market since. So it's been about 18, 19 years probably since it last came on the market. So whatever was there in the background, the divorces, the alcoholic side of things as well, we eventually cleared. no one was probably more surprised than me at the time. You know, you set yourself a goal and you kind of feel that you can do this stuff, but really until you actually get feedback from a client, you don't know exactly how good you are. And of course, I would sit there really waiting for feedback. And, you know, not that I was ever a nail biter, but you start biting your nails down to the quick, waiting for feedback to come through. And eventually it does. And you suddenly find the family are happy. My first ever proper case that I got paid for was a very big house. Let me just, Tim, can I just click onto you to see somebody on the screen rather than Nick? Nick's. Because I've got a black screen. It's rather unusual talking into a black screen. I can't hear you, mate. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Okay, we'll try again.
That's got it. Good. Yeah, just it's unusual talking to a black screen.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
Even if it's somebody yawning and going to sleep in the background, it's better on a black screen, you know.
It's fine,
So my
yeah.
first ever paid job, I was going to see a physio every couple of weeks, trying to get my back and my shoulders and everything else sorted out. Mainly that was stress from trying to get the business sold. And he said, I've got this client, they've got a really unusual house in Godalming, and it's probably worth about 3.5 million quid these days. So it wasn't an easy, quick 1 or 2 bedroom house to do. It was a mansion. And I walked up there and they asked me, or the lady there was a very spiritual lady, and asked me, you know, what was going to happen. And I kind of really hadn't got a clue. You know, I knew roughly what I wanted to happen. Anyway, I walked around and she gave me a floor plan, and I worked on the floor plan, and we did a bit of feedback over sort of a 1, 2, 3, 4 week period. And things seemed to be going quite well until I went up there for a cup of coffee. She was a bit late. She had popped down the shops to get some shopping. So I was talking to the husband. And he said to me, look, about this kind of house healing stuff, you know, what is it? What does it mean? He said, what should I feel happens? And of course, it was one of those questions a bit out of the blue that I wasn't expecting from him. You know, he was always in the background there, and I had a vague chat with him. And I said, well, look, you know, your office that was always very, very cold should start feeling warmer. You should be spending more time down there. Oh, yeah, I am. Yeah. The cupboard upstairs that had that really, really weird smell about it, the smell should have gone. Yep, and we talked about a few other things. He said, oh, it does actually work then. He said, I was always very skeptical. I said, well, to a certain point, I was as well, until I proved to myself that it could work. I got paid for that, and that really gave me the confidence that I needed to start moving forwards. They passed my name on to a couple of people. Stuart, this physio mate of mine, passed my name on to a few people, and gradually it started to build, but it did take time. And I think that's the most important bit, is don't worry about it. It's a bit like when Reiki was first appeared in England, you know, probably 35 years ago now. You know, people say, oh, I'm a Reiki healer. And even me would say, well, I don't understand what that is. And now there are many, many people out there practicing Reiki. It's just become the norm. But house healing, and if I ever pop up to the local pub here and they say, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a house healer. Oh, right. Well, it's been a lovely day out there weather-wise, isn't it? Or, you know, the local farmer keeps talking about his crop. They still don't fully understand about what I do until you start talking about full moons. And then they say, oh, yeah, the crop grows better there, or the farm or the animals give birth over full moon period. They can understand that side, but anything slightly esoteric, they really kind of don't want to know. Although I did talk to somebody the other day and said, are you Adrian? And I said, yes. She said, I've got both your books. And she lives over in Richmond and didn't even realize I lived up here. So the word has spread. The most important bit, I guess, about all of it is trying to get yourself out to meet people and try and convert them, if possible, to what we do. Now, when I started off, I was giving a few talks to local dowsing groups, because at the time I was doing this, I hadn't quite become vice president of the British Society of Dowsers, but I was running their Earth Energy group and also running their healing group. So that gave me a bit of an an in to people who were on the same thought patterns as me. So one or two people say, well, I've had my house worked on and nothing happened. I said, well, give me a go. I'm always happy for a challenge. They said, oh, well, if you can do it, I'll pay you. Fine. Okay. So that was one way that I started to move through, and my name became quite well known in dowsing circles. I started giving talks for local dowsing groups. And if you go on to the British Society of Dowsers website, I think it's britishdowsers.org, and you can go on to local dowsing groups, and there are many, many throughout the country. Approach them, because they're always looking for speakers, and the same within the States and the same within Canada as well. Is maybe just give them a quick call and say, look, this is what I'm doing. Can I come and give you a talk? And in most cases, they're always looking for speakers. There's a good chance they can say yes. If you're not up to giving a talk at the moment, because it is quite hard, and I still get very, Tim's grinning, yep, even I get nervous when I'm doing this, even though I know what I'm talking about. I'm still very, very nervous before I ever go on stage to talk. And I guess it's that kind of keeps you humble from that point of view. Coffee mornings locally, we run them up at I don't, but they run them up at the local village hall in just up the road from here. Give them a quick call and say, look, can I come along, even if it's just for a cup of coffee with people, and then just gradually talk to them about what you do. There's always going to be people around who need work done on their homes or their family, but they sometimes don't realize it until you talk to them. U3A is another group that's worthwhile approaching, and so is Women's Institute. They're always looking for speakers. Perhaps if you talk maybe about something, to do with elementals, or a little about healing land locally rather than healing people and healing people's homes, that's another way through, especially if you live in an agricultural area. You can also get local business forums. I get invited every now and then, but frankly, the sort of stuff that I talk about probably, it won't go down as well as it would, say, with the Women's Institute or U3A, or even talk to them purely about dowsing. As dowsing forms part of what we do. Everybody's fascinated about dowsing, whether it's dowsing for water, and then introduce what else you can do. That's another great way of getting. It's a nice, soft way of actually getting in to talk to people who perhaps would normally look at us and go, yep, well, you should be burnt at the stake, rather than coming along and do any house healing. The most important thing really is have confidence in yourself. And this is the big thing that I've learned over the years, that, even when I started teaching courses, I was terrified about people asking me questions that I wouldn't have the answer to. But have confidence in yourself. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out. Tim and I have talked about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which is it's worthwhile looking it up online. Basically saying, as soon as you start to actually, what's the word for it? As soon as you start to think about somebody, as soon as you start to tune into somebody, you begin to change the energy patterns around them, which to me is a fascinating way of doing it. So it doesn't matter whether you've been doing it like me for getting on sort of 15 to 20 years, or you've only been doing it for a few months. As soon as you start thinking about one particular person, their family and their homes in a positive way, you're going to bring changes. So never worry about, oh, nothing's happened. It will, I promise you, start to happen. It may take a few days, it may take a week or a month for it to click in, for people to realize that changes have happened, but they will happen, but just take your time. I guess for me, having a business background, often if I get asked an unusual question, I can normally field it because, 25 years running my own business, whether it's questions from members of the public or questions from members of staff, I'm normally quite good at fielding them, or hopefully upstairs will say, yeah, don't worry about it. That's the answer, which often comes in. So really, it's a matter of trying to be as, it's not careful, trying to be as stealthy as you possibly can to get into people's houses. And I don't mean going knocking on their doors and saying, "Oi, missus, I think your house has got a problem. Can I do any work on it?" It's that gentle hook that you need to kind of get. And if you can just get somebody interested in what you're doing, you start working on their homes, that changes. They're going to start talking to other people and to other people and to other people. And then suddenly you've got business coming through. But you'll sometimes find, even if you do a great job for somebody, they are a little bit embarrassed to tell their next door neighbor or their best friends what they've actually done. Often I work for the ladies of the house because they've got a problem with their children sleeping or just generally sort of not happy around the house. And often they say, can you do this work without my husband knowing? Because if he knew what I was doing, I'd probably be committed. So yeah, you can do that. You don't necessarily need to have the permission from all members of the family, especially if you're working on a 2-year-old child. You're not going to get a bit of signed paper from them to say, yes, of course you can work on my house, or of course you can work on me. What I always say is it's upstairs who has the final decision of what healing you're allowed to do. So just ask permission for upstairs to do the healing work, and it will then progress at the pace that they want it to happen in. So really, we have to start somewhere, and that gentle hook is a great way of doing it. I guess Tim and I, we've talked about it quite a lot. We're a little bit different on how we then pin people down to actually get their business. What I like to do, and it was the same with a estate agency, you go there and obviously you give them the valuation of the house, but often it's the follow-up that you give them that you would probably get their business from. So rather than just sending them a letter and forgetting about them, if you can then give them a call or send another email to say, do you have any problems? Can I help? Any questions you may have, let me know. A great way of starting is to actually ask them to send a floor plan of their home, to say that it helps you to tune in, to be able to work out what needs to happen to actually do a healing on their house and their family. By getting a floor plan through, even if you don't say to them what you've found, just say, look, there are problems there, and yes, I'm pretty sure that I can help. And then, through the network, lay out your terms and conditions of, the costings of what you're prepared to do. You've just gone that extra step further rather than just say, yeah, of course I can do it. Stick me 50 quid in the post and I'll do the healing tomorrow. It's trying to look at a professional approach to it all. And it's taken me time to get there. It's not something that I've done overnight, and I've taken my time and do changes as we go along. Ask upstairs for help. Tim and I were chatting a couple of days ago. Inform them, tell them what you're doing, tell them what you're prepared to do and what you need from them. Because if you're not prepared to kind of put yourself out there, then you can sit all day by the telephone or by your email address and go, and if they don't know why you're going or why you're sitting there thinking about anything, they're not going to help. They're not going to send clients your way. The more contact you have with them, the better it's going to be. And it's the same with clients as well. The more contact you have with them, the more chance you have of them being able to recommend you to one of their friends or a work colleague. Now, the problem we all get is, how much do we charge? And I know Tim's obviously been very helpful from that point of view. We all talk about us being altruistic, to be able to work with people, for putting others first, for our concern for other people being first and foremost in our mind. And yes, that's true. However, we need to eat. Well, I do. You need to pay rates or, council tax. You need to heat your home during the depths of winter. There's always something that needs to be done. You don't go to a solicitor asking for help without them charging you. And it's really the same with us. This is where the confidence comes in. And to a certain point, it doesn't matter what you charge, although, again, Tim's been helping out from that point of view, but we need to charge something. And I know initially when I was doing Reiki with people, they said, oh, of course, it's an exchange of services, really. It's an exchange of energy. And they'd say, well, we don't do that. Perhaps we'll buy you a packet of biscuits, or we'll buy you a cup of coffee. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, it's cost me a lot of money to get where I am today, because 15, 18 years ago, yes, there were people out there doing house healing, but not to the extent that's happening now. With Tim's help setting up the Knights Rose house healing network has gone a long way to make it sort of more mainstream. When I was there, people hadn't got a clue about what a house healer was. So, for me, it's been a bit of a rocky road, but you've got to set out really what you want to do, what you need from other people. I'm hoping that helps. From a commercial point of view, a website or even a one-page web presence is always very, very helpful. It doesn't need to be massively complicated. Mine was probably only 2 or 3 pages when I first started off. Obviously, there's a lot more now, because with the amount of money that I can now generate because of my books and the articles that I've written. It paid. I think my website cost me about £3,500 to put together, which is a lot of money when you're starting out. So you don't need to do it. But anything you can do to help promote yourself is going to be helpful. Facebook is a great thing. I post up there. There's a thing that somebody Dooley, is it Michael Dooley? No.
Mike Dooley,
Yeah, Mike Dooley posts up called Message from the Universe. If you look up tut.com, and what I do, I get them through, and all I then do is just put latest message from tut.com and actually post them every day on my Dowsing Spirits website. So it gives you a presence. People look into it. I put stuff up on my Facebook page. I don't tend to do Twitter or Instagram, mainly because I don't really know how they work. So I hide behind my ignorance on that. With your website, offer a free download of something. Put a small meditation together so people can download something free of charge. By doing that, it's a slight commitment by them. I put up various bits and pieces. Yes, I charge for a lot of the stuff, but I've got quite a number of things, including my workbook that goes with Heal Your Home too, that people can download free of charge. Change it around every couple of weeks, once a month. Get a mailing list going so that you can send a little newsletter out every now and then. All these little bits and pieces, but the most important is trying to get people's commitment as soon as you possibly can. I think that goes without saying, Tim, doesn't it?
I think, yeah, I mean, there are various aspects of different ways of looking at this, and I think, for some members of the network, they really are. They have no clients whatsoever. And
yeah, of course.
There's that process of, well, how do I do this? Well, I've heard that getting a mailing list is the way to go, but how do I get the mailing list? What do I do? What do I actually do? And we can go into that a little bit more when you're happy with how much you're covering, because I think what you're saying is generally really good. And we can kind of circle back around and pick up some of the points that you've raised, I think. Yep. So, but yeah, getting the sale is certainly one aspect of it. And it always sounds a little bit kind of mercenary, but it's not. We don't mean it like that.
No.
You're actually putting your services out there so that you can help people. But there is that point where you've got interest, you're having a conversation with somebody, and I know this happens to several house healers in the very early days. You're having the conversations on Facebook. They're interested. You might even have looked at a floor plan, but the point at which you say, well, okay, so would you like me to do some work for you? It's going to cost you £150. That question is a very simple. It's a simple step that we all have to be aware of, that we need to take it in some fashion so that the client will then be in a position to say yes or no. Because basically, if you might have spent several hours talking to that client, in various stages, And if they say no, well, that's fine. That frees you up to go and just have another conversation with somebody else. And the internet, particularly, is literally a numbers game.
Yep.
So the more people you talk to, the more you get closer to your first sale.
Absolutely.
Your second sale. Sorry, you asked me a simple question and I've gone on a bit.
No. It's nice to have that sort of feedback. And I think that, when I first started off, you're thinking, well, what do I charge people? Again, that was really down to probably self-worth more than anything else. What are people prepared to pay? There has to be a commercial side to it, Tim. Otherwise, we can just sit there and, work for lots and lots of people for nothing, and suddenly find that, you've got no roof over your head. But of course it is, if you're not used to having that sort of commercial background, it's very difficult. For me, articles are, local newspapers, a lot of villages and a lot of small towns produce their own sort of local magazine. Now, I did advertise quite a lot in the early days, but some of the response I get, if I call them nutters, that's probably very unkind. But from a lot of people who were so way out there, have you heard about this? No, and I still haven't heard about it today. There were just the extreme cases that came through, which I couldn't help. I had to look at it and go, I picked my dowsing rod up and go, do I need to help this person? No. Can I help them? No. Can anybody help them? No. It really is. It's more of a sort of a medical problem than it would be a healing problem from somebody like ourselves. So advertising can be horribly expensive. So a free article in one of the local magazines, one of the local freebie newspapers, how I started out, what I'm looking to try and do. How does your house feel? Some sort of catchy title. And it doesn't have to be thousands of words long, but just a little bit to introduce yourself to somebody and go, give it a try. If you're not happy in your house, give it a try. I did. Yeah, people often say, well, why don't you just write to all the local estate agents? I know what I would have done, before I even got into any form of healing. If somebody had written to me, I'd go, yeah, whatever, not a chance. So, can you imagine trying to approach one of your clients? Look, I know your house isn't selling very well, but what we've got this great guy who's this house healer who's going to come along and do a healing on the house, and we can sell it. What's it going to cost? Well, it's going to cost you 200 quid, 300 quid, 400 quid. Are you going to pay for it? No. Why should I pay for it? I'm paying you to sell the house for me. So, it then becomes very, very difficult. They've got to try and sell it to their client who probably thinks the estate agent is now slightly around the twist. So you've got to be careful. So coffee mornings, just a gentle way of really getting into people, talking to them about it, showing you what a lovely person, very down-to-earth person you are. You're going to catch somebody. You'll find somebody who'll go, yeah, Shannon or Linda or Melanie or Dawn or Tim or whoever it may be, what a lovely person. They seem incredibly genuine, so let's give it a go.
Can I just add to that,
Yeah, of course,
Adrian?
Dawn.
Because, I often tell people who are looking to start either, a healing business or house healing businesses, you're not just selling what you do, you're selling who you are. And so you can only do that if you get out and make connections. And one of the places that I hang out in is metaphysical fairs, because they're already thinking in terms of esoteric, metaphysical, spiritual things anyway. So they're with you on that. And I've always been amazed. Sometimes I've done an event, and like a year later, they've reached out and said, I spoke to you at that fair, and you really made an impact, and would love to move forwards with this. It just blows my mind how one little conversation can yield something even a year later.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a very, very good point. I had it down here. it can be quite expensive unless unless you know who they are and you can say, look, I can come and give a talk free of charge. I've often found it's difficult. No, I know the ones I've done have been very, very good. And I think that's a very, very good point, because they're held all over the place, certainly probably a lot in Canada, certainly a lot in the UK. And often they're crying out for people to come and give a talk.
I do think, if I may just interrupt there, I do think that giving a talk, speak to sell, is a phrase that is bandied around a lot in marketing circles. And if you can actually, push yourself out of your comfort zone and be prepared to put a talk together, then you will find that actually they are incredibly effective at helping you build your following. And it does both of the things that Adrian and Dawn have both talked about, because when you give a talk in public, whether you're using video or whether you're actually doing it in person, and really we're talking here about doing it in person, but that enables that audience to really start to get to know you, because instantly they're picking up a vibe from what you're like, how you're presenting yourself. They will even feel empathy for the fact that you're so nervous when you start to give your talks, because you're so new to doing what you're doing. But because everybody recognizes that talking in public, speaking in public is a nerve-wracking thing to do. But just recognizing that so often coaches will talk about the fact that actually your progression, your improvement, your self-development is not in the comfort zone. It's not in doing the things that you're used to doing. It's in just stepping slightly out of that comfort zone and putting yourself into the position where you are actually a little bit nervous about this. You are actually a little bit worried about this. How's it going to go? I've never done this before. Step into that zone where you're breaking new territory, and you actually start to find that actually it's not as terrifying and shatteringly awful as you thought it was going to be.
There's Tim.
Well, I choose to limit the exposure that I have. That's it's as simple as that. But it's not. It can be quite fun. But the key thing is that you will, as Dawn's just said, you will get responses from the people that you're talking to, and it's a natural environment. And the fact is also, in all of this, don't forget, you've got to realise that there are two things I want to say. One of them is that you've got to realise that most of the time, people recognise that you are likely to be charging for your services. Most people recognise that if you're presented as a professional well-being practitioner, you're going to be charging money. So there's an expectation that they're going to be charged at some point. What you want to do is just make sure that you're not coming across as some kind of, money-grabbing idiot.
Yeah,
because,
of course.
You're trying to help them. So you present yourself in that way. I've completely forgotten what the second point was going to be, but it doesn't matter. Back to you, Adrian. Go on.
It's quite good. Leaflets, for instance, are quite cheap to produce. Now, I've always, again, because of my commercial background in state agency, whatever I've produced, I've always not necessarily overspent, but try to get the best looking literature or publicity that I possibly can, with printed cards that you can give to people when you see them. Any literature that I've printed, just to be able to go around to people like your local homeopaths or your local naturopath, physios, acupuncturists. If you regularly go to one of these, then just talk to them about what you're doing and say, can I leave some leaflets behind? Because the one I went to, I've had a lot from a friend of mine he's a friend now, down in Caterham, for instance. I taught him how to dowse, and he's sent quite a lot of clients my way. So again, just talk about dowsing to them and saying, look, do you know what you can do with it all? Even do a small sort of half-day dowsing course locally if you want to, just teaching people the basics, and then suddenly say, this is what you can do with it. I'm now a sort of fully qualified house healer. This is what I do, and this is what I can do for any friends of yours. So just look at any opportunity you possibly can, but try and do it the best quality way that you can.
Dowsing is a really good door opener. for any of us, you
Yep.
know. And if you think about it, you know, I mean, Dawn's YouTube channel is you know, there's a wodge of dowsing related videos on there. There is on mine. The purpose of my channel was simply to introduce the idea of dowsing.
Mm.
Now, and look where it goes, you know, because the fact is that dowsing is a door opener
Yep.
in terms of our spiritual path. And it's a really good way of accessing intuition. And everybody is fascinated by anything that they can find out about their own intuitive self. Everybody loves finding out about more about their stuff, you know, their own stuff. And dowsing is a brilliant way of introducing people to that concept. And so many, I mean, there's a lot of people in the network who are very experienced well-being practitioners per se. So they've got a lot of material they can draw on, a lot of experience of working with people and having improvement in those people's lives. And all they need to do, all those people need to do, those house healers need to do, is to think about how they package their experience into a short presentation.
Yep.
Now, so to a certain extent, for Adrian, being you know, having been in the corporate arena, he's sort of used to thinking like that. For me, it's even easier because I spent 30 years in communications. This is what I did for 30 years, was think about what's this client's message? How do we package that? How do we open it up for people to find it accessible?
Yep.
So, you know, when I stepped out there and you know, opened up this, what I thought I was going to have to do was just to simply talk about earth energy. And I thought people would come flocking. I thought they'd be so fascinated by the fact that there were these lines of energy that they would be like, Tim, tell us more. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
No.
It's, you know, it just doesn't work like that. So
it doesn't.
So the dowsing became the door opener, and then you take them on the path, and people will ask you questions. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, no. That's perfect. It's fine, because it's amazing. I'm even up here when people, you know, I'll often say, "Oh, I'm a dowser." Oh, yeah. My uncle or my grandfather used to do that in the farmyard, looking for blocked drains or whatever else. So a lot of people have heard about dowsing, and as you say, it's that, again, that gentle hook. Talk to the local U3A and say, right, look, I'll come and do a talk about dowsing. And then, of course, you introduce your house healing side. And then you're going to find one or two people who might come up and say, look, yeah, we live in an unhappy house or a divorce house, which, again, is a great way of introducing bad energies in people's houses. Everybody knows about a divorce house. You know, it's you know, there's always one around the place. So you can introduce that. And again, it's just introducing that concept as well as dowsing. You'll be surprised at how many people will follow it up. But then you've got to give them a card. And again, this is when you give them a card. Here's my website details. So go and have a look. And you can just put a bit more information about yourself there. And people will then come to you. They might feel a bit in trepidation to begin with. But the more you can put them at their ease, the better it's going to be.
Yeah, and it's those conversations really are just you know, you will find that you would have different conversations as you get more confident in talking about it, even just one-to-one with people. You'll find different ways of opening the conversation, of testing the water, of seeing, well, are they a little bit woo? Do they think that are they ready for this? Where can I pitch this? Can I go straight in with the, you know, you've got a spirit guide who wants to talk to you, or can you or do you come in through the, okay, well, have you heard about dowsing? You know what that is? That's, you know, yeah, and then you work through it in that way. It's really as simple.
Take a few dowsing rods with you, or a couple of pendulums, and say, give it a go. Yeah,
I mean, you know, one of the things that we'll talk about tomorrow in the video training session to start with is about understanding your unique selling point. What is it? What is your story that people will find interesting? We'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow, right? But fundamentally, that's also what we're talking about here. When you're trying to develop your market, you have to look at what you are presenting from the other person's point of view. You've got to look at it from your client's point of view. So one of the things is that you need to know what sort of clients you want to attract.
Sure. Yep.
Again, as you were talking earlier on, Adrian, about clarity, talking to the management and being clear about what you want and what you want your business to be like. All of the basic fundamental manifestation techniques that we all know about, but we all forget about. Use them, put them into your practice, use them to develop your business, because you're all completely capable and confident. You're not confident, you're all competent. You're all completely capable and competent of doing the work that you want to do. So just relate that to the management and work on it, because it really will be a case of taking one step at a time, and then things will just develop for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's just building that confidence. I think I saw one chat pop up saying LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yeah, LinkedIn. Yeah, it's worth going on there. Connecting with as many people as you can in the holistic world. And the same with Facebook as well. You run a sort of a busy Facebook page. I've got them. You just go through and say, right, kind of linking with you, and then gradually the name starts to spread. But of course, if people are coming at this from a practitioner point of view already, from a healing practitioner point of view already, then that's the hook they've got. Give a talk on Reiki, just give a talk on hands-on healing, give a talk on food supplements, or talk on
whatever that.
Anything like
whatever
that.
that specialization is, whatever that experience is that you've already got, that you're already linking into, and you've developed your house healing interest because it wants to complement the work that you already and the experience that you already have.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's not always necessarily just a well-being practitioner. We've got some incredibly creative people in the network, and they've been doing things for decades with creative work and working with people in the creative arena. All you have to do is to link some of the intuitive aspect of the creative part of you, into the dowsing, into the house healing, into the implication of what does this really mean? What does this mean elsewhere in your life? What does your creative ability? How does that reflect in other areas of your
absolutely.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, food intolerances. Is it a problem? Is it something that your body has got a problem with, or is your body so weak because of the effects of geopathic stress or the problems of living in a sick house? That's another sort of way you can look at these things.
One of the ways to kind of think about this for yourselves, to help you narrow down about how does this work for me? What am I going to do about this? Is to think about the market in terms of what's the area of focus that you're interested in. So some people will be really interested in the paranormal, the general paranormal umbrella. So if you think about paranormal as an umbrella, and then you think about, areas of focus within that. Well, what is that? Well, you've got, ghosts specifically, which will give sleep problems. Well, is there an angle from ghosts that I'm particularly interested in, or spirit attachments, that I can actually start to do some, little blogs, little articles about that aspect of it. Know that I'm referring to the overall area of focus, which is the paranormal. The umbrella is the paranormal area of focus, is the spirit attachments or the ghosts. So you can really drill down and see and identify for yourselves subject areas that you can start to promote and bring people in to your business with those subject areas. Because writing blogs, promoting those, getting those onto LinkedIn, LinkedIn particularly for networking, really, it is a very powerful way. And LinkedIn is also incredibly open and an easy way. It's even easier, as far as I'm concerned, than Facebook is in creating those network helpful links, because you can very easily contact people that are in your network and simply say, look, would you like a 15-minute chat? I'm going around my network. I don't know who I've got in my network. I've got 600 people in my network, but I'd love to make contact just for 15 minutes, see what you do, see what I do. Let's is there any synergy here? And you can do that on LinkedIn, because that's what it's about.
Absolutely, and that's great. I mean, just going back to the talks, something like, why am I not sleeping as a talk? An awful lot of people have sleep problems for whatever reason it may be, worry, debt, whatever. But it also may be spirits in the house. It may be the kids being bothered by a spirit. Do that. talk about food, don't eat food before you go to bed, don't drink coffee after 6 or whatever. But, have you thought about the more of the sort of on the healing side of things, and what can be done to help? Do you know a history of the house? Who lived in there beforehand? They might have had problems, and then introduce geopathic stress and house healing that way. So get the tagline right, you're going to get people tuning in.
And I think it's a really useful practical exercise to literally get a notebook and just write down one-liners about what you could write a blog about, or what you could, what could you give a talk about? Just literally one-liners, like you say, sleep problems. Okay, there it is, sleep problems. Relationships, strained relationships, or because if you think about your area, Adrian, where you came from with the estate agency, like you talked about before, you were talking about divorce houses.
Yeah.
Well, the umbrella of that would be kind of like, okay, marriage. Well, how does that refer to what's house healing? How does house healing relate to the marriage umbrella concept? Well, you've got strained relationships. If you've got people that are going through difficult times, but you don't want to actually break up, but they're difficult times. Well, actually, house healing can help with that. I mean, yeah, so can other well-being, modalities, but
yeah, of course,
house healing help. So you can write a blog about that. Just put it down in your bullet points. You'll get an A4 page of bullet points without any trouble. Just think about it and look at them and think, oh, okay, right. Well, maybe today I'm going to write one about that, and spend an hour just write it up. Now, I know some of you won't like writing. You're not going to be, we're not all born writers. We don't all enjoy it.
No.
And in which case, just use the old technique of getting a voice recorder, and talking your thoughts out loud, just so that you've got something that you can think, oh yeah, actually that's quite an interesting idea. Other people will be interested in that.
Yeah.
But just give it some life, give it some substance.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not easy, I think, with all of this. I never thought I'd ever be able to write one book, let alone, 2.5, and obviously half with you. But, anything you can put out for people, even if, as you say, a short blog, a newsletter, it doesn't really matter what the newsletter says, to be honest. It's just getting your name out there in front of people who will then come back and go, yeah, I've got a friend of mine who you might be able to help. I'll get her to give you a call.
Yeah. And ideally getting that name, ideally. It is always useful with leads. When we've talked a lot today about making contact. How do we make contact with people? How do we share what we know and what the business is about? One of the real gems of the corporate world is also to recognize that really the power of the contact, the power of the lead being generated is in you having their contact details.
Yep.
Right. So it's all very well. It's great. It's brilliant to have business cards to give the business card out, but you need their business card, because you're the one that wants to follow it up at some point. You don't have to be a pain. You don't have to be annoying. We're not trying to be a salesman, so double glazing salesman.
Yeah.
But you haven't got any kind of leverage if you haven't got their contact details.
No,
and
I agree.
Case in point, and I should have known better, was when I gave that talk at your event in June. I took lots of stuff, gave away lots of information about the course and all the rest of it. I didn't take a single person's name that expressed an interest in the training course.
Yeah.
Why didn't I do that? I don't know why I didn't do that. But I tell you what, I didn't get a single sale from that event in that sense.
Yep.
Because I didn't take anybody's name.
And that's the problem. And it's very easy, we all lead busy lives, and it's then very easy to get on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. You go, who was that chap we spoke to? Exactly. So, get as much information for other people as you can. And
again, it's not about being mercenary. It's not about being unpleasant. And actually, this idea of selling, selling in our business, in the well-being world, is a four-letter word. It's not four-letter. How many letters it's got? But it is treated like it's, it's got the plague.
I don't sell anything.
No.
Yes, I could if I wanted to, but that's not the way. I wanted to get away from that sales side and then just, rely on people to a certain point. Rely on people finding me, but I've obviously pushed out with websites and and blogs and newsletters and mailing lists and whatever else. And it took a while. I think I've got about 1,200 people on my mailing list now. That's fine, but it took a long, long time to get there. You know, I've got 100. Woo! Can I get to 200? I need to get to 500 now. So, but just take things steady. It will happen. But the most important bit is try and look as professional as you possibly can. You know, there are too many people out with massive egos as well. Just remain humble, talk to people, and you will get the business coming through.
Yeah, definitely. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Adrian, for sharing your experience, and we will undoubtedly revisit this again very soon, because I know that there is clearly an interest from the members. Are there any questions for Adrian or any of us, or anything that anybody wants to share from anything? Anybody? Oh, hang on. Okay, let me just start with Shannon.
Hi, thank you. That was
Hiya.
very, very informative. There are a few things, you know, as I've been thinking about how to get out there and get prospects. And one thing, because I am in the show business with my 3D job, I'm thinking home shows. We have a lot of them here in Ontario. I think that they're across Canada. I'm not sure how many you have out there. I don't know if you've ever tried it. I thought about speaking at home shows and perhaps, like you say, talking about energies in the homes and getting you know, getting the interest and then going from there. I've also thought about how to get real estate clients. Not really sure how to do that. It might be referrals. And then my last point is Toastmasters. I just want to share with everybody that in 2019 I started in Toastmasters, and I went there to help myself speak better with my own workshops. But the confidence that came out of it in every part of my life is amazing. So if any of you can partake in any Toastmasters meetings, even attend as a guest, I'd highly recommend it. It'll just make it easier for you to speak to people. But so that's it. I didn't want to take some time, but I guess the home shows and real estate is where I kind of wanted to get clients. So
yeah,
do you have any experience with that?
Yeah, again, I think with that, Shannon, you know, you've got, you know, obviously a lot of you do sell houses in a slightly different way than we do here in the UK. But you do a lot more show homes, although that's what we started doing many years ago. We were one of the first agents over here to start doing that. But it's very easy to drive around and suddenly see the board go up and it's still up there and hasn't sold. Yeah, a nicely produced leaflet pop through the agent's door, or because it's multiple listing normally, isn't it? Is to be able to fire off details to as many of those agents as you possibly can, to suddenly say, yeah, bring it to their clients and saying, look, it hasn't sold yet. We've got this lovely lady who does this. You know, why don't we try her? And, you know, it can't hurt to do it. So brilliant. Well done. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Yeah. Melanie, you had a question.
Yes, thank you. Adrian, that's wonderful. Lovely to see you again.
And you as well, darling. Always nice to see you.
Your talk went down very, very well with the Zoom. I've had lots and lots of lovely people saying how much they enjoyed it. So
Good.
You're very welcome back anytime you want to talk about house feelings. So that
That's
would be
all
another.
right.
I'll take your space. The other thing is, Tim, you did get somebody from that talk. I was sitting in the audience and I couldn't know.
Of course, I do. Beg your pardon. Except we were in contact before the talk. And
we were, but I need to get you to give me a talk on my Zoom. So
that's true. That's true.
You did, so you didn't do too bad. The other thing is, I mean, there's many different things you were saying, but there is so many different ways. I mean, I've got a leaflet for my business, and I find that tremendously helpful. I found that really, really good. The other thing that Dawn said about metaphysical shows, they are very expensive. We have them over here in Ireland, but there's also metaphysical shops and other places, even places you can go and take your card and leave things. I have a shop down in Cork, which they refer people to me. They'll come in and ask for things and they'll actually send them to me. So you can get referrals because you can do something for a shop, or you can, as you say, go and give free talks. There's so many different things you can do. So, and I think, and also being able to, like you said about talking about dowsing. I walk around with my pendulum everywhere. and I'd be in a garden centre talking to plants, and people say, "What are you doing?" And I was in the art class last night with my husband. I had 3 people dowsing last night. So the minute you bring the pendulum out, people want to know what you're doing.
Yep.
And I have builders here at the moment, and I've got all my builders dowsing, every single one of them. And
Brilliant.
of course, they're builders, and they're going to go to someone else, and they're going to say, "Oh, I know somebody who can do that." And so
Yeah.
you just leave little breadcrumbs. And I've had so many people phone me up and say, "Oh, so and so said you do this." And so it's a matter of building that confidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
And having, like you said, a card or a leaflet or something to give out to that person afterwards. I think it's
Yeah.
very important. And over here in Ireland, it's word of mouth. You can advertise all you like, but if people know you.
Yeah, advertising becomes horribly expensive, and it just never, if you do it in a paper once a week, somebody might miss that paper, and suddenly you've got 400 quid just gone up in smoke. I think dowsing, it's a lovely way, even if it's things like, who are the local charity groups? The
Round Table.
Yeah, Round Table. That sort of, they love it. I remember when I was living down outside Hereford. And they said, "Oh, you've been recommended as a dowser." Fine, took it along. This is big burly bloke, who's about 6'8" tall. He said, "That's a lot of rubbish." I said, "Fine, give it a go." And he walked along, and the rods crossed, and he dropped the rods and goes, "Oh, I don't like this." I said, "Well, it works, doesn't it?" So these sort of groups, it's anybody. They're just looking for people to, dowsing is a great thing to actually put in as a title, because a lot of people have heard about it, and most people think it's all to do with finding water. Nothing spooky about it. And then, of course, you're there. Then you can start introducing some of the spooky stuff.
Definitely.
One other thing, if I might just add on,
Yeah.
Adrian, I'm definitely coming next year, as you know.
Good. Excellent.
Tim, can I take information for the network and promote it at Adrian's workshops?
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. There's a lack of leaflets at the moment about the network, but yeah,
Sort
we
that one
will.
out.
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
I will happily take it because I'm going anywhere, so I will take it and advertise, and maybe even kind of promote it while we're there, if that's okay, guys.
Yeah, of course.
Always open to anybody promoting the network, for sure. Yeah, always. Definitely. Just nag me to get material. Perfect.
Yes.
I promise.
Perfect.
Right,
Yes.
you're nagged already, Tim.
Well, clearly, but I need constant nagging. So, in fact, I'll put it onto my current assistant to.
Love it. Love it.
Right. Okay. So, yeah. So I think any other questions from anybody for Adrian or anything about this that's sort of really pressing? Okay. So, like I say, this is a subject that is, we will return to all the time, because it's the essence of what we do, and it makes such a difference to everything about us as we develop a little bit of confidence, and then realize that you get the ball rolling, and you manage to get out there and get the clients, and then everything changes. So go on, Melanie.
Sorry, I just thought of another one. We've got International Dowsing Day.
Oh yeah.
So you can actually arrange your own little event somewhere. I mean, obviously we're in Ireland, we're different, but in England, I know, is it the 5th of May on Hamish's birthday?
Yeah,
I didn't even know.
Yeah,
it was
the same. Yeah, it's the same across the world. And just on that, I think that joining, one of the dowsing societies is a good, is a good idea, because they have a professional register, so I'm involved in the British Society and the Canadian Society, and in fact, Shannon is our president of the Canadian Society of Dowsers.
Fantastic.
I get lots of work through that, so I do think that that's another good vehicle, and our dowsing societies need members, so and it's not expensive, so I would really advocate signing up and joining all of the dowsing societies.
It also gives you the confidence, doesn't it, of mixing with people, other like-minded maniacs, basically, who do exactly the same thing that you do, who are completely off the scale, but the best people in the world to talk to. And I put myself down as a maniac, and
Yeah.
He knows what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's great. I can't.
So before I forget, Adrian, you had some lovely compliments. I had 3 different people say going to your event was the best thing they've ever done, because it was literally being with like-minded people who didn't think they were bonkers. So, and they had such an amazing day. I had 3 different people say that to me. I keep meaning to send that to you.
Thank you. Well, hopefully we'll do the same again next year. I've got a few interesting people, so I'm going to be sending details out certainly before Christmas hits us.
Excellent. Okay, it's good stuff. Don't ever forget that. It's I think one of our members, Chris Quartermain, has just started a new dowsing group in Chester in the UK, and that in itself, if you're living in an area where actually there isn't a local dowsing group, and obviously Dawn's Dawn would be all in favour of it being affiliated to the BSD or whichever country you're in, which is fine. I can't comment on that because I haven't been a BSD member for years, but that's just me. It is a good idea, especially when you're starting out, to be a member and to get involved in those professional networks, because that's exactly what Dawn says. It is the ideal place that you will find that work just comes to you. And if you're living in an area where there isn't a dowsing group already, it is not an particularly arduous task. It takes a little bit of work, but it is not a particularly arduous task to set up a dowsing group, because one of the simplest things is to take out a little advert in the local paper. It doesn't cost a fortune in the little classifiers to just start to say, are you interested in dowsing? Do you know what dowsing is? We're meeting every Thursday at so and so or whatever. When we were living on the other side of the Dales, Adrian, we started Dales Dowsers.
Yep.
And that was brilliant because it did exactly what you just described, which is that you get the collection of people. They find a home. They realise that they're not alone, and if you're the organizer of that group, you've automatically got a magnet for a little network straight away.
Absolutely.
It just means that
so I don't know whether the BSD do that now, but I know when I was there, you could actually email them saying, look, there's a group in Essex, some people trying to get a group going in Essex. So what we used to be able to do is say, okay, the BSD would actually email the people in Essex to say, right, there's a local group starting up. Would you be interested? So I don't know whether that's something
we would absolutely do that. So I'm I'm a current trustee now of the BSD.
Okay.
So we would absolutely do that. And I think any of the dowsing societies, they really help us get started in dowsing. Yep. And I think even if we're like beyond the need of that type of support, I would love it if those lapsed members come back to the society and support the these groups, because without members we'll wither on the vine and die, and I think that will be such a shame to dowsing. So come back and support us.
So BritishDowsers.org I think is the current website for the BSD. Pop on there, because there are lots of local groups around the country, and there are lots of people who are keen to get a group going but don't know how to start it up. So quick email to the BSD and they'll certainly be able to help.
Good. Yes, thank you for that, Dawn. Actually, that's good. That's a lovely reminder, and I'll consider that as a nag from you. I use the term nag in a very affectionate way. I hope everybody understands.
Oh, we do.
I'm okay being a nag. I don't mind.
So really, with it, just stick with it, guys, folks, guys, gals. I don't know what you call people these days, but as the group, stick with it, because it's going to happen. But sometimes it's taking those baby steps, is getting yourself nice and grounded. And also, what do people want? If somebody came up to you and started talking to you about it, how would you feel? So take the approach that it's just talking to people in a very normal way, and then you're going to land them quite quickly. And then it's going to start snowballing.
Big time. And use the power center in your house. So you've
Yeah.
all identified the power center. Put your leaflets in the power center and ask the power center to empower them. And I think we forget to use the
tools of our trade.
the tools of our trade for ourselves. So I often interact with my power center just from a business perspective and say, this is what I'm trying to do. Give it some juice.
Yeah, definitely. The dog normally pinches mine before I even get there, so there's always a bit of a tussle in the mornings.
Excellent. Okay. The other thing, not to want to end on a downer note. This isn't really a downer note at all. But don't forget that if you're feeling low or struggling, look, everybody, we all get to that. We all go through that. So use the Facebook page, use the network private Facebook page, the professional network page, to say help. It's really not working for if you're really having a low day, just put it out there. Don't be embarrassed by sharing your struggle, and equally don't be embarrassed by sharing your successes on that page as well. We are a network here, we are a group, and it's just ironic that I seem to be founder of it, given my nature of being a hermit, and so therefore I tend not to do what I ask you to do, but I encourage you to do that, and maybe I'll start using it a bit more too. So
but the world needs us. I mean, there are billions of houses out there that need people to go in and spread some positive vibes, basically. Yeah. And I mean, again, we'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow. For those of you that are coming along, and for those of you that are not coming along, you will be able to see the recording anyway of the video session tomorrow, so don't feel as though you're missing out on anything. We do need to start pulling this one to a close today, but if there's any last sort of comments or anything, do wave, shout, any observations or anything that anybody wants to share. It's completely fine if there isn't. Yep. Okay. So well, Mr. Ingleton-Webber, thank you very much indeed. My pleasure, as always.
And
I
yes,
hope it's helped. Yeah, I hope it's helped. It is a daunting task to start off with. You kind of start, you start doing the courses with Tim, and you think, yeah, and then you suddenly think, okay, so hang on, you hear the sort of little birds tweeting in the background and no emails, no phone calls going, but stick with it. But look at the basics, put the basics down on a bit of paper in front of you. How am I going to get this business? And suddenly it starts to click very, very quickly.
Just look at it from the other person's point of view, not from your point of view.
Yeah, and don't forget, you're helping people. I mean, this is a great thing about it. Anybody that employs you, you're helping them in such a massive way that, you've got to be confident about it. Just whack in there and go for it. Whoops.
Yeah.
That's my chat with the States coming up.
Okay.
Lady down in Georgia.
Excellent. Good. Well, have fun. And so thank you all. And don't forget, next month we have Anne Perry, numerologist, and some of you I will see tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to talk about video.
Yeah, if I can tune in, Tim, I will, but I'm not sure what I've got on tomorrow, but if I can.
It's fine. Yeah, well, it's just pop in anytime. Don't feel embarrassed. And this goes for anybody. Don't feel embarrassed if you kind of get to 3:45 or something and you want to pop in, but just pop in. It's fine. We'll be chatting away. I hope that it's good. Well, it will be. I've got quite a lot of basics to put across. I was a bit surprised as I started writing some notes. So some basics about video and about YouTube. It's not all woohoo. Some of it's pretty limey. That's a lot of work. But
you need a camera, yeah.
It's worth it. But you don't need a camera. What you need is a phone. Right. Okay.
Thank you everybody for attending, and hope that was useful.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All the best. Cheers, Shannon. Good luck with that. Let us know how you get on with the agents.
I will.
Thank you. Bye.
Good. Okay. Cheers, guys. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye.